As the unrest is building in the United States, I think it's important that we look to Libya and see what's happening there. Jimmy and JoAnne, welcome back to the show. How you doing tonight?
Jason.
We're doing okay.
We're just about fully recovered from a Category 4 hurricane that went right over us. So, we're hurricane. Yeah, it was a hurricane for sure.
So, you guys didn't suffer a lot of damage there, right?
No, it was a miracle, Jason. We were on the west side of the eye. The eye went right over us. But it's dry on the west side of the hurricane, so we really didn't get that much rain. We did get a lot of high gusty winds and only had 2 big trees knocked down the back. Normally, there's been 10 trees knocked down in the past 2 hurricanes that hit right here. Only 2 trees. We lost electricity for several days, but really it was things we were prepared for.
Well, the problem is that we have a well, and so there's no water.
Yeah.
And the power goes off.
The 240 volt side of our generator.
That's a problem. Yeah. You know about that problem.
Yeah, same in New York.
Quit. Yeah. So, we were really prepared for that, but the generator has 2 sets in there, 120 volt, 240 volt. 240 volt just went out. First time in 40 years that I've had a generator, the electric part of it short. So anyhow, we had plenty of 110. We had a little window unit, and so we were.
So we're survivors, Jason.
Yeah,
I know that. It's amazing. I've been through some pretty rough weather in the area there. I did a movie in Louisiana in 2009, and there was a pretty tremendous tornado that I've never experienced weather like that before. So wherever you go, there are problems. You walk down the street in New York City, we got hoodlums running wild. You move to Texas, you could get hit by a hurricane. Have they blamed it on Trump yet?
Yeah, well, who can...
We can blame it on HARP.
Yeah.
And who runs HARP but the deep state?
Yeah.
The same people that run chemtrails.
It's real easy to I did good and you screwed up. And unfortunately, the people that have not learned how to take responsibility, they're ready to blame everybody but themselves. But
there's people that blame everybody.
Yeah, there's natural occurrences. The unnatural thing, Jason, is the weather patterns are so modified now. Like we have storms. Storms are always kind of circular in motion, but we've got straight lines that follow the same path and they go backwards. Like you never get weather that goes from this part of Texas towards Dallas. Now they're doing that, and the jet stream drops all the way down here to the Gulf. That's never happened. It normally passes across the northern part of the United States. Some dip down, and of course that's thank you very much HARP, and they've admitted that they've been controlling that for a long time. That's that high altitude
atmospheric research or something like auroral research or whatever. They're trying to excite the ionosphere with different frequencies.
Huge amounts of energy that are pointed upward, and they're burning enough energy they could light up New York permanently. So that's another criminality of the empire, the ugly empire, and we'll get into that in the show. We've got several instances where we're showing just how evil DC is, and really we all not only need to be ashamed of what's being done in our name, but we need to be doing something to stop it because it's just horrible.
Yeah, and it gets worse every day. In every little direction. The Planned Parenthood stuff that's coming out now is just unbelievably evil. I can't believe people could even look at it. The one of the leaders of Planned Parenthood testified that they will change abortion, whatever the way they birth the baby, so they can cut it up better.
Whoa.
A whole baby. And she absolutely said, "Well, I lied about that before, but we will do that."
They get more money.
They get
more money for live birth abortions. Oh. And it's a profit center for them. And that criminal, we brought up the idea that doctor that went to Atlanta and her new procedure, because it was unsettling for a lot of the abortion clinics to birth a baby live and then start cutting its heart out. They want the heart still alive as long as possible, so they leave the baby alive, cut the heart out. And the baby was screaming bloody murder, so this doctor, this butcher, developed a procedure to cut the vocal cords of the baby so they didn't have to hear it screaming while they're cutting its heart out. That's here in the United States.
I mean,
that's amazing.
Those are murderous acts. Why aren't those people arrested or strung up or something, you know?
Babies' lives matter.
Yeah.
Exactly. That should be instead of Black Lives, should be BLM, babies' lives matter.
That actually makes a lot of sense. You know, there was a woman who spoke at the RNC who was talking about how she used to work for Planned Parenthood. I thought her comments were really powerful. I mean, she's someone who realized that what they were doing was morally reprehensible. And it's interesting how they name these things, right? Planned Parenthood is actually for people who haven't planned parenthood at all and just want to get rid of the baby for the most part.
It's planned butchering is what it is.
Yeah,
it's butchering.
Very bad.
It's profit center for them, and they're paying these young women, mostly of color, to become pregnant and full term the babies. They're paying them to do that, so that's their job.
That's got to be a criminal act in itself.
It should be.
It is.
It was defunded here in Texas, and this criminal group in Austin defunded the police to the tune of $150 million, and then put $100 million of that into funding abortion clinics here, which had been defunded by the government.
Yeah, it's not legal. They're not going to get away with that. They can't.
You know,
they're trying to skirt.
We've heard about how this MRC5 is it's a diploid human cell culture composed of fibroblasts originally developed from research deriving lung tissue of 14-week-old aborted Caucasian male fetuses. Now, they're saying it was isolated in 1966, so I don't know if that means that they're able to replicate these cells or if they need a constant supply of it. But I have heard that they do that, and there's food additives that come from these aborted fetuses. It's
disgusting.
It is.
Really, I mean, we're living in, you know, people talked about Rome as a debauchery. You know, they got into all kinds of terrible things before Rome fell. You know, how much worse can you get than what we're doing here in this country?
You know, and we're going to mention a little bit about Libya. You know, the thing that's going on in Libya is the people there, they're being starved to death. They don't have any water, any food, no electricity, nothing.
They're trying to get that restored.
Plenty of money
on the east side.
70 billion still in the hands of the criminal government, and the people are in the streets. You know, we want food, we want water, and so the criminal UN government that the U.S. supports went and fired upon these people with large caliber weapons, killed a whole bunch of them, wounded a bunch of them, and these people did not any of the people in the streets had a pistol even. So the U.S. ambassador, piece of garbage, went in there and said, we support the rule of law and we're supporting this government, and the people that did this didn't have a license to be killing these people.
No, what they said was they fired. This is what we're going to talk about on our show. They fired the interior minister, and because they said his group is the one who shot the protesters. This is Siraj is now his nemesis. The two are against. They were working together, but they're now against each other. This Pashaga guy, who was the interior minister, is from Misrata. He's originally Turkish. You know, all these backgrounds and all these criminal Muslim Brotherhood and radicals. The usual suspects. Well, they fired him. So Misrata stood up and got mad and went to those militias are going to kill the militias of Siraj. Now they're having a fight in Tripoli.
Wow. It's a gang war.
And he says, this Pashaga guy, he says, well, they didn't apply for a permit to be in the streets to protest. Like there is a permitting process in Libya. There's not. Do you think he would have granted one? I mean, how? This is so stupid.
The failure of the United States is the U.S. is in there defending these guys that shot down and killed these innocent protesters.
Oh, yeah. If you go on my PDF, Jason, down near the bottom, there's a picture of a U.S. ambassador.
Yeah.
Scroll down, you'll see, not him, scroll down some more.
That guy?
Him. Yeah. You see, I gave him an award.
Oh, really? Well, we better be careful because the National Academy of Dumbasses might try to strike the video. They seem to be upset when we give people awards.
I know. Look at what I highlighted there. You can read what he said. He said a couple paragraphs, but that's.
Well, the U.S. Embassy stated that it supports rule of law and urges cooperation in the interests of providing good governance to the Libyan people. That's lip service if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, and at the beginning of that, he says, we are so happy to be aligned with the UN-recognized government of the GNA. The Sarraj government that was never elected has done nothing.
Muslim Brotherhood murdered.
Yeah, but they had
Jesse James.
They had a long contract of things they had to do when they got to Libya. They haven't done one thing, not one. They don't give any. They don't help the people. They've depleted all the banks. The electricity doesn't work. They've run out of fuel. It goes on and on and on, and never done one thing.
Yeah, there's about 20 billionaires now, criminals.
Yeah, Belhaj,
from that government, they're billionaires, raped and robbed and stole from the Libyan people. The Libyan people don't have water, don't have electricity or anything. This is who the U.S. continues to support.
And now you've got the two groups fighting against each other today. There was the tribes told me today, said, well, you should know that there's some groups out there killing the Syrian mercenaries intentionally. They're hunting them down and killing them. These are militias killing each other, and they don't want any other militias there. They don't want any militias working for the GNA. They don't want any, and the GNA doesn't want any Misrata militias. So this was bound as Belhaj.
He's a multi.
But wait, JoAnne, why are they killing each other? Are they just battling over the loot?
They're mad because
they're afraid they're going to lose their money pocket.
The Misrata group supported Bashaga, the guy that Sarraj fired, the interior minister. The other groups work under Sarraj. So we have two parties.
They're both Muslim.
They're both Democrats, if you will. And they're killing each other. They're going to fight each other, and they're going to get this guy put back in power. He was taken out because they said it was his group that killed the protesters. And then he made an illegal trip to visit Erdogan without consulting Sarraj. So they're having this kind of, it's like
Darlin, how did he become to be in that position?
Well, none of them were elected. They were just appointed.
They pulled it out of their backside.
Yeah, he just the Libyans say,
but it's got to be some kind of political patronage, right? They're doing favors for each other. I mean, what you're describing sounds like almost like warlords. I'm looking for the requisite picture. There we go.
They don't have any governance abilities. They've never had any government background. They don't have anything. They were just put in place by power. The UN put this group in, and the group appointed this other group, that group.
But he's been to the Erdogan School of Photographic Posing, we can see.
There you go.
But you see,
now, wait a minute. Who is this guy?
That's some Turkish, or I think he's a Turkish guy. I don't know who he is. I don't know. It says right there.
Security will enhance Libya's political stability. I mean, these are all stupid statements that are very obvious.
They're stupid because there's no leaders in Libya right now. There's just these criminals, these warlords. These are the warlords in Libya who are trying to maintain their control. And every time you read an article, it says, well, they were so successful in beating the army and having out of Tripoli. They didn't beat the army. The army agreed to withdraw per the Berlin Agreement, and they didn't do it. They didn't keep their half of it. So they said, oh, we beat the army.
But
they didn't beat them.
Everybody remember, Libya had over $500 billion in cash and cash equivalents in the Fed, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan. All that money, all those hundreds of billions were turned over to these criminals the first week of this phony revolution. The Libyan people got none of it. And that money been participated out to Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, etc.
Mostly the Rothschild Rockefellers got most of it.
They got a bunch of it.
They got most of it.
So it seems like an inordinate amount of attention being paid to Israel and the Middle East. There was a lot of news about this UAE flight. I wish they would be putting some attention on Libya, but it seems that these countries, why do we suppose this is happening?
Because there's no media in Libya. No, there's no outside media in Libya, so they can do whatever they want.
They don't allow it. They don't allow it.
Nobody is in there to see what's going on. We get information from the tribe, but let me tell you what, we're in rare air because people do not know what's going on in Libya. They don't see it.
It's all manipulated news. The New York Times wrote something about Sarraj firing this Pashaga guy, but I spoke to the son of one of the supreme tribe,
leader of all the
tribes. Yeah, a good friend of ours today. He's there in Egypt, and he said, "You have to know that the Libyan tribes are so pleased with you, because There's no other news coming out that's real news, you know.
Right.
All the rest of it's all manipulated. It's all, you know, it's just words. What they did in 2011 to Libya, the same thing, just lies. And because Libya was a closed shop, no one could prove it was a lie, or no one came up against it.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it works, and I mean, we're seeing those mechanisms. I'm looking up New York Times and Bashaga, and it's not showing me anything.
Look up New York Times and Tripoli, Libya, maybe Siraj. Might put his name in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing how this type of manipulation happens, right? I mean, we start to put out shows that are sort of telling people things that they aren't hearing in the mainstream news, and now there's been this attack trying to shut the channel down, very malicious approach by the president of television. I think they don't want a show like Unseen Libya to gain traction, and we have thousands of viewers today. Years from now, we could have hundreds of thousands of viewers, and I think that scares some of these individuals and organizations that are at the seats of power, because controlling this information and controlling public perception really gives them a huge amount of power in terms of getting popular opinion behind.
Yeah, getting their agenda done, but they want chaos.
Does not meet their agenda goals. That's the fact.
You know, we made a joke when we were in Libya, in Tripoli in 2011, when NATO was blowing that place up. Every day they came out with a different lie, and Jimmy said, "Well, this is like the CIA. They're sitting in a room and they're making up lies, and they say maybe this one will stick. No, throw that one away. Oh, this one's better. Women are being raped there. We'll say that." You know, and then they send it out to all their media, and it all goes out, and then because 15 media sources said it, now it's the truth.
Right. And that's what they do. It's the loud bullhorn, and they keep blowing it. But, you know, very early in our process of doing these shows, you guys pointed out a lot of the photographs that you had taken in Libya. And by the way, for people who are watching us right now who maybe haven't seen Jimmy and JoAnne before, it's important for people to go to LibyanWarTheTruth.com and get caught up on Jimmy and JoAnne's story. They started an oil services business in Libya in 2007, right?
Yes,
sir.
And spent a bunch of time there. You can purchase their DVD and learn all about it. Good thing to know is that people who sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty are going to get access to every week's edition of Unseen Libya, the sponsor exclusive show that's coming up in just about 15 minutes on Patreon and Subscribestar. Sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne's on Patreon are also going to get access to the PDF documents that they prepare for us each week. That has all the direct links to the articles. You're also going to enjoy free shipping if you order their DVD. That's exclusive for sponsors of Jimmy and JoAnne. So it's a great way to support Jimmy and JoAnne, keep this kind of alternative news coming, and also for people to educate themselves about what's going on there, because as we look around our own city streets, there's a lot of turmoil and unrest here. I've seen people who are interacting in these crowds who don't seem like New Yorkers to me. And you guys have told us that there is a pretty common practice of giving out these passports that allow people to move through certain regions and countries with greater ease.
Yeah, they're visas, but they're provocateurs, Jason. They're paid mercenaries, and they're posing. I call them posers now. They're posing as protesters. Here in the United States, all of them are just posing. They're posing.
Rand Paul said that the people that attacked him and his wife and the two women that were with him, he said most of those people that were attacking him were not from Washington, D.C. They were not from that part of the country at all. And he and his wife and their two friends would have been killed had it not been for the police stepping in. And even at that, the rioters kept growing. There were about 30 of them at first, and just a couple minutes later there were 60, then there were 120. And they were not from the D.C. area. So, you know, we're seeing that all over. They're busing these people all the way across the country. When they show up, they're all in nice, clean, new shoes, new pants, new outfits and everything, plenty of money in their pocket. And they're very, very aggressive. JoAnne's got a couple of videos in Portland where the people in Portland took it in their own hands to give these people a little of what they've been passing out. Everybody will really enjoy those videos. they used some pepper spray and some paintball guns on the rioters. Same thing the rioters have been doing. They got some of it back. It's really, they're short videos, but it'll really warm your heart.
Oh, and that's on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. So another good reason for people to sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne. They're going to be producing a lot more exclusive content. So if you've been watching Unseen Libya on patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth, September is a good month to begin sponsoring Jimmy and JoAnne. We've got just a few minutes left here before we transition over to the sponsor exclusive show. JoAnne, do you want to give people an overview of some more of the topics we're going to cover?
Yeah, I want to talk about the Al-Fatah Revolution anniversary. It's the 51st year, September 1st. September 1st, 1969 is when Libya took back their sovereignty, first time in maybe thousands of years they've been a sovereign nation without Italy or Turkey or somebody else in there running their country. And it put Muammar Gaddafi, the tribes put Muammar Gaddafi in charge, and he did great things for that country. We're going to list some of the things he did. All of that was destroyed by Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and NATO for no reason other than a lie. And so they could stop the gold-backed dinar that would have destroyed the fiat currencies. And there were some other reasons too, but mainly they couldn't have a strong Libya. That was not something they wanted. So it didn't have an IMF bank or a Rothschild bank. They did not have that. So also, Jason, I want to say one thing. For people who buy our DVD, they should know that it's called Escape from Al-Qaeda. And that's because in 2011, when we were there, actually invited in on a fact-finding commission in Libya, we were there from May through September. We were captured by NATO's Al-Qaeda, the mercenaries that NATO brought in. Whoa. And we were sentenced to death and taken to their torture center. And we got out of Libya with 3 miracles. We had quite a bit of divine intervention in our life, and one of the reasons we speak out is because we were told to speak out.
At the tail end of our show, Jason, we've got a letter, an article from Senator Richard Black. He's written an article. He's done a lot of research, and the probability of a military overthrow of our government is real and contemporary.
Right now, you mean?
He said, huh?
Yep.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. And the generals he said most of the flag people are in cahoots, and that in cahoots they're working with the Democrats, and it's not a good deal. And he's talked to a bunch of them, and like the head of the
we got to get him back.
Standing next to Trump at when Trump was giving a speech, and after the speech was finished, he stepped down and went to the reporter. And he said, I'm ashamed that I had to stand up by that man. That was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Now that's treason.
And his executive was Trump. That's treason.
Trump is his commander in chief. That is treason, full treason. But we're going to have.
It's about 4 or 5 page article from Senator Black. He's got all the references and everything detailed, and we'll be covering that. And then we've also got a really neat overview from a man that's been interviewing Antifa, Black Lives Matter people. He's got a lot of the details about how they operate, what instructions are given, how to make paintball bombs and things like that.
Yeah, there's Senator Black. I think we'll have him on the show again, Jason, to talk
That'll
about
be great.
this.
Yeah, he's really always great to talk to and has a lot of military and government.
He's a great patriot. He is a hero.
Absolutely.
He's a wonderful man.
One last real quick thing, because I know that this sort of relates to what you were just telling us about Al-Qaeda. It really seems like they super hate Michael Flynn in D.C. and just will not let him shake loose. Even when the Department of Justice doesn't want him to be charged any longer, they just keep dragging him back into this legal quagmire.
Yeah,
you spoke about.
He knows too much.
He was inside the Obama administration. We talked to his brother. We know him. He knows us. But he was promised a lot of things. He was going to revamp all the intelligence agencies, but that was really not the purpose of putting him in there. And when things did not flow the way they were supposed to, he resigned. but he had so much inside information that he's very, very, very dangerous to the deep state.
Yeah.
And they've been on him like stink on who he ever
But there's no rule of law here.
No.
There's no rule of law in this country anymore.
And well, when you guys said that you were captured by, NATO's ISIS or the UN, Al-Qaeda, right, sorry. But this is basically what Michael Flynn revealed, was that he felt that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had deliberately created ISIS, and that's a can of worms that they don't want opened. So
250,000 were brought into Libya to take over that country.
The CIA put our name on a kill list and handed it to Al-Qaeda in Libya. We saw the list with our names on it. We know that we recognize the handwriting of the man that did it.
Wow. Well, people who want to help General Flynn can go to his Defense Fund website. If you just Google Mike Flynn Defense Fund or go to MikeFlynnDefenseFund.org, you can get there. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in just under 5 minutes. People who want to join us for the sponsor exclusive show and hear all this information direct from the tribes in Libya. This is not reading off of, some teleprompter. Jimmy and JoAnne spend all week communicating with the various tribe members and leaders, and people can join us on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty or Patreon and subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. We'll see everybody there in just 3 minutes. Thanks for watching.